You guys. You know, Acronell is the heaviest offender of this, but I've seen everyone do it at least once. When I post a discussion title, I'm going to discuss it. And then you can add in your thoughts at the beginning. Acro just like, oh, this is interesting. Types 9 paragraphs. Knowing I don't typically chat before the show, you gotta hold on to them thoughts. You gotta hold on to them thoughts, man, because you don't know what I'm gonna say. I might come out and say like, doesn't exist for you, but I'm in friend zone 30 minutes. You know, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Because I want your feedback. I want your thoughts. But I want you to have context first. Get hype. I appreciate that. But I don't want your thoughts to get buried. Because what if like 90 people were in here and they're all like, blah, 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 and I didn't get to read what you said. I don't want that to happen. Give me a hard time, dude. Don't worry about it. Welcome to the show. I'm Grindhead Jim. It's Monday the 15th of July. I'm feeling pretty good about myself today. Got a lot done this morning. A lot more than I expected to, if I'm being honest. Because I had to go to the store and there's like one or two things I knew I had to get. And I was like, am I going to be able to get the rest of this stuff? And I did. And it was relatively quick, and I got it all put away, and I, got some stuff done. It felt good. Feels good, man. Feels good, man. So, we're in a good place. So, the friend zone. When I was growing up, there was no such thing as the friend zone. I mean, the closest comparison would be, they want to be just friends. Well, that's always been a thing. That will always be a thing. And I think that was always perfectly fine. But I think it was the logical precursor to what we now refer to as the friend zone. For the uninitiated, what is the friend zone? Friend zone is a phenomenon where two human beings share an affinity. One has a greater affinity for the other. And over time, this person does everything they can think of to gain favor and attention from the other under the guise of it being selfless friendship. Whether that's, doing chores for them or buying them stuff or taking them places or whatever, all with the understanding that they're just friends. And at some point, the person who has been going out of their way, tripping over themselves, trying to gain favor of the other party, will inevitably confess their undying love and affection for the other. And the object of affection, and I use this term deliberately because that's what they're reduced to in the mind of the person who is confessing so-called love, an object. Because if you have any regard for someone else's feelings, you don't have the expectation that many of these would-be lovers have. And they say, here, I am in love with you. I want to be with you. The other person says, well, I don't feel that way about you. I'm not in love with you. It's like, I do love you, and we're friends, and I cherish the bond that we have, but I don't see it going further than that. And that is when the person goes, friend zone. And they feel like they have been victimized in some way because they gave everything of themselves and got nothing in return. Which is not true. You got friendship in return. That's how friendship works. The dangerous part about this particular type of mindset, and the most prevalent that I have noticed, is that the underlying part, the dark part of it that no one seems to really talk about out loud until shit happens. The other party usually wants physical reciprocation. All right? And I'm going to use a word today that I can't believe I'm using. I hate this word. I think it's stupid. The concept, I think, is also stupid because I think it marginalizes a sect of humanity that, frankly, needs a hell of a lot of help. And separating them and segregating them and ostracizing them isn't helping. And that word is incel. And that's an adult male who has never had sex or seldom has sex. And that whole thing. So a lot of people that get friend zoned tend to be what most people think of as an incel. I'm only using that word to define some people. I don't feel that's necessarily appropriate, but and let's analyze that for a second. This whole idea of incel, right? I got to be honest with you. I think that culture has bred incels, in the sense that because you've got the demands of modern culture colliding with the sensibilities of this generation's parents, which were more traditional gender assignments, and culture wanting you to be more open. There's this, at least for males anyway, there's always this pressure to be masculine, or at least there has been traditionally in the past. And then culture's like, well, no, you can be whatever you want, and you're a whole human being. And they struggle with that. Then you have the onrush of the internet and the entertainment industry coming in, and you've got a really wide range of things you can latch onto. Whether it's the 70s and 80s exploitation type of stuff where the damsel is always in distress and the man comes in and saves them. You've got more of the empowerment stuff that's coming out now. And then you've got, honestly, with some of the most insidious entertainment that I've ever come across in terms of taking someone who's already got a warped idea of what human interaction should be, and they'll latch on to essentially, I'm not hating on Japan or animation, guys. I'm not hating on anime, but waifus. This whole idea of the waifu. And the fact that people latch onto this so hard. This idea of an always chirpy, positive, submissive female that will just do whatever you ask. Why we don't crack down more on this image of women is beyond me. Anime fans just are like, oh, look, waifus. And I'm like, if this were a live action depiction of someone doing that, people will be out of their fucking minds. But no, for the last 10, 15 years, waifus, weefus, peefus, goofus, soofus, whatever you fucking call them. So you combine all that stuff together, and you got guys who, for some reason, think that if they're just nice enough and a decent enough human being, that someone will just come along and be like, here's some pussy. You can get laid. Not how it works. You gotta be a good person for the sake of being a good person, and find someone that you can relate to, have genuine mutual feelings for, and maybe eventually sex will happen. Sometimes you find someone that you're really on the level with, that you are in love with, but sex doesn't happen for a multitude of reasons. It's a fact. But the thing is, like, it's just this whole idea that it always comes back to the same thing, whether we're talking about the friend zone, or the whole, quote, titty streamers, unquote, controversy, if you will, certain political beliefs. And it's this thought that by existing, you are owed something. You're not. No one is owed anything. There's no debt that needs to be paid to you because you exist. Period. I don't care who you are. Nothing. Now, that is different from a cultural or societal idea that we should take care of each other. I think that's different. Agreeing for everyone to contribute and make sure that we're all cared for, whether that be health care or emotional health or keeping a government running or whatever. I think that's different. But you don't just show up, put your hands on your hips, and be like, I have a penis, therefore I must own a vagina. Issue me one, please. You know, it's not going to happen. And we talk about the friend zone, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to this: I was nice to you, therefore you have to fuck me. I'll tell you something. I'm not the best dude in the world. But if I expected sex and got it from every person that I was nice to, you guys would never have met me because I'd still be fucking. I try to be nice to everybody if I can help it. If I can help it, and you're not a complete piece of shit, I'm gonna try to be nice to you. I'm gonna try to be respectful. I don't expect anything back. My hope is that I get at least that mutual respect back, you know. It's not just like I would totally hold the door for you. Totally hold the door for you. I love how, hello Deshiro, I see you. Tony says, nothing as in not getting that noodle wet. Exactly. Staunch says, I will never be an incel as long as I have hands. Dude, same. True story. You know, I mean, the thing is, if I ever feel like I'm getting angry over something like that, takes 5-10 minutes tops to take care of that problem. And I legitimately feel better. If I'm ever feeling too aggressive or whatever, that's number one. Out the door goes. You know? Dishu is an anime fan. Yes, I like anime, and I like anime people. I like anime fans. I don't think anime is an issue. I just think that the interpretation of the waifu character class, if you will, is a little suspect, or at least part of this whole thing. Y'all can correct me if you think I'm wrong. That's the point of a discussion. Dick pics 5 or 10 minutes stop. Yeah, there are some good ones. But so when you, I know that this doesn't apply to anyone in the community, but I want to say it out loud anyway. When you meet someone, you should be a good person to them because you want to spread positivity, not because you're getting something back. You know, it's, and of course, it is natural and perfectly acceptable to hope and want that you will get the same in return. I mean, on that level, at basic positivity, like let's be friends level, you know, you can't force a reciprocal reaction. That's just how interacting with people works. And Staunch says, I don't understand wanting a submissive partner at all. I can talk to you about that. Seriously, there are places where it does work. But I would say that just going on every way to find one in everyday life is not going to go well. Because there's different levels of submission and stuff. Toshiro says that waifu shit gets crazy. Yes. And yeah, and that's the thing is that when it comes to like, so let's take a sidebar for a second, talk about submission for a second. You know, the counterpoint to that is dominance. I would argue that a large number of people, and mainly men, but some women use this too, let's be fair. But a lot of the men that are looking for waifus, however you fucking pronounce it, I think it's waifu, like waifu. I think the reason, I think part of the reason it gets out of control is that I had no business asking anyone to submit to them because they themselves are betas or omegas. They don't have any idea how to take care of business. They don't know how to do things for themselves. And they just want someone to take care of them. So really what they want is a mommy that won't tell them what to do. They want someone to take care of them. It's very different from having someone who's generally submissive. I think that's the disconnect there. They want not to put in any effort. They want a mommy they can fuck. That's what it is. Let's be honest. I think that's what it is. And there are legitimate fetishes and couples and stuff where that kind of stuff does happen. And in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that. But expecting that just to fall out of the sky is stupid. And to expect that not because you legitimately need that to fill whole. In those cases, I totally get it. Because there are people that are like that, and that's fine. But to expect it because you don't want to have to put any effort into your fucking relationship and just have whatever you want all the time because you're entitled, because you deserve it, that's fucked up. And that's where this friend zone concept comes in. That's where incels happen. Because they expect the world to come to them and give them everything. I mean, yeah, parental lifestyle has some kind of impact to it for sure. I mean, we talk about submission. I mean, for example, I consider myself a dominant, and I have had submissive partners over time to varying degrees. Some people are they prefer to be submissive most of the time with their partner, and then to everyone else, they're very outwardly capable and like they're very successful, professional people. But when they come home, they don't want the weight of the world on their shoulders. They want not to have to worry about that shit. So they defer to their partner, a dominant partner. That's how that works. And I think in the right context, with the right people and the right understanding, that can be a very, very rewarding and healthy relationship. But this idea that you don't, because it is all about communication. It's all about communication. It's all about understanding. It's all about, because both are giving and taking in that situation. You can't just take everything from somebody and think that that's healthy. It doesn't work that way. You have to have things going in both directions. And I mean, this is really complex, honestly. But that's part of why I wanted to have the discussion. It brings up so much. Because if you just go, oh, stupid friend zone doesn't exist, stupid ass, making it up in her head and stuff like that. And that's where my head's at. But when it leads to things that are bad, when it physically hurts people, that's when it becomes a problem. No level of flirting, no level of exuding sexuality should ever result in someone expecting you give them what they fantasize about you at the cost of your life. I woke up this morning because I couldn't sleep, and I just went to Instagram or Twitter or both, and I forget which place I saw it. It was a thread. It was screenshots of a thread and then a link to an article. The content creator, I believe, on Instagram that had her own Discord server, was 18 years old, and she was the type of content creator that had a very flirtatious, fun relationship with her fan base. Okay. Like calling your community, honey and dear and all that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it can get dicey. I think it can be scary. But as far as a concept, hey, if you can make it work, go for it. If you want to have that kind of intimacy with your fan base, you fucking do it, and that's awesome. Because it creates engagement. It makes you feel good. Hopefully, it makes them feel good. And no one is hurt for it. At least not when things go well. One of these fans started interacting with her, I believe, in DMs. They got to know each other and decided to meet up, presumably as friends. And this guy was really throwing a lot of affection at her. And she was like, you know, I appreciate you. She was trying to keep him at an arm's distance while still trying to facilitate a legitimate friendship. And I won't go into too many further details except to say that if what I read and if what I saw is true, because I'm not familiar with this creator at all, I didn't have the wherewithal to do the research, if I'm being honest. So this may be just something that's meant to be a warning sign kind of thing. Maybe someone has taken. I hope this isn't true. But if what I read and saw was true, she didn't live after that encounter with this individual. And that would be bad enough. Again, without going into specific details, he mutilated her and posted pictures on various places like 4chan, Instagram, and was just flaunting what happened, saying this is what the friend zone gets you and all this shit. And on what, like, my brain goes all over the place. My daughter is 16 this year. This kid was 2 years older than my kid. That could have been my kid. And as a father and as a man, one of the first thoughts in my head is, how did this motherfucker live to adulthood without someone beating some sense into him at some point? How did no one have the good sense of being like, you need an ass whooping, dude? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't have a solution to that part of the problem. And I realize that violence doesn't solve much, if anything. But I do feel like, even if we don't want to promote a hard edge to discipline, whether it's children or society, there has to be consequences to your actions. That has to be taught at an early age. We're raising a generation of people that don't understand what consequences are and think that people will just walk along behind them and clean up after them. Ripped, it is not someone that I knew. It was something random that I saw this morning. I woke up out of a dead sleep, and when I do that, I tend to check my social feeds and stuff just to try and get my mind back to sleep. It is not someone that I know. I'm grateful that it's not someone that I know, but someone knows them, and it's horrible that this happened to anyone for any reason. But I appreciate that. But it's awful. Yeah. Acro says, I think part of it is that he got that treatment a lot and took in the negative but not lessons. And possibly. I mean, we can speculate for an hour, not come any closer to any real answers about what's going on here. And the fact is, you see this kind of behavior, maybe not to the level of violence that you see, but certainly the violent emotions. A lot of what you would think are relatively well-adjusted people that just expect sexual relations or sexual attraction because you're just nice to someone, you know? Yeah, I've had friends that listen to those podcasts in the past, and I really try to stay away from a lot of that stuff. I have enough post-traumatic stress. I don't need to trigger any of that shit. But it fascinates me, right? I gotta be honest. Like, look at someone like the Iceman. Look at the Iceman. He was a mafia hitman, sociopath, cold-blooded killer. Justify murder like that, like nothing. I got way more remorse for him than I do this fucker that did what he did. Because at least with the Iceman, I can say he was a criminal killing other criminals for the most part, number one. In the majority of the cases of his murders, he could tell you why he did it. And although it was a sociopathic thing to do, and any murder is bad, he didn't walk up to somebody and say, I gave him a hot dog, he didn't give me a hot dog back, so I shot him. You know? But that's what it boils down to. These motherfuckers are like, I did this for you, why aren't you doing this for me? Well, if that's your expectation, then don't fucking do anything for anybody. Just don't. Because if the only reason you're going to be nice to anyone is because you expect something in return, you got a lonely fucking life ahead of you. And I gotta be honest, this is where the really cold, morbid part of me comes out. Because we got a population problem on this planet, guys. And there are people that really don't want to contribute anything to society at all and expect everything in return and want to treat women and other men like this. And I'm sure there are women out there that are like this too. I mean, they are out there. But let's face it, this is mostly males with women. Fucking just get him out of the fucking gene pool. Get him out. Seriously, if there was a consequence like, hey, look, if we catch you being a fucking idiot repeatedly, you're out of here forever. Bye. See you gone. And certainly, there are bound to be people with therapy and genuine engagement. You know, they're rehabilitatable. You know, you could help them. So I'm not saying that everyone is beyond saving, but when you see this kind of stuff all the time, and this type of behavior in all different kinds of things, this idea that the world owes you everything for no effort, it's just not true. You know, and before anyone, I want to reiterate this. If you're watching this live or later, this is not a discussion about like healthcare or living wage or stopping homelessness, ending hunger. Those are all things I fully believe in. You know, I think everyone has a right to feel safe, be fed, get a decent wage for a decent job. You know, like I said, be healthy. But you have to. But I think those are basic human rights as far as I'm concerned. But no one has the right, the entitlement to romantic fulfillment and sexual fulfillment. That's a hard truth, but it's a fact. You know, you can be the biggest asshole in the world. I want you to be fed. I want you to be clothed. I want you to have a place to live. I want you to have a decent wage for a decent job. I want you to be able to get health care when you need it. That doesn't mean I think you deserve to have a wife or to get laid. Because you could be an asshole. You know? But if you don't want to pay your admission fee like everybody else and try to contribute to society, you know, try to be a good person, not act as though you are a good person. That's what this boils down to. These are people that are behaving in a way that they are conditioned to think, this will get me laid. It's like, it's not why you do it. Well, that's the thing though, Stotch. Even if you were to pay a sex worker, even if after the payment is taken, like, you know what, I've changed my mind. I want to give you your money back. There are those that will still sexually assault that sex worker because they feel like they are owed that in life. It happens. That's what I mentioned in my tweet. Because the sex worker, at the end of the day, that's still their body. It's still their boundaries. And if they say no, it's no. But I get where you're coming from. Deshiro says, some people just need to be sterilized, if you ask me. I mean, lest I get myself into trouble, I will simply say this. I would not take that off the table under the right context, checks and balances. If for no other reason than we got too many people. But that does get dangerously close to eugenics. It's dangerously close to genetic manipulation and population control, and you got to be careful with that shit. Luckily, I tend to see way more white dudes doing this than any other gender and racial makeup. We got way too many white dudes, so I think we'd be okay with that one. As a white dude, I can say that. Some of my best friends are white dudes. Sorry, having fun. Well, if the guy did what they said he did, he will probably get what he was looking for in prison. If he makes it that far. Because the guys that are this emotionally stunted, those are the kind of guys that hold themselves up in a 7-Eleven and shoot themselves in the face. I gotta be honest. He deserves worse. Acro says, those are the cases that hurt women the most in terms of getting justice for the assaults. People judge them on what they do, and press calls it comes to the territory. Yeah, I agree, man. I feel like as a society, we're a bit too quick to. We want to do whatever we can to take the uncomfortable things and push it under the rug, right? It's a shame. It's an absolute shame. But I don't have any real answers here, folks. I mean, that's what these discussions are meant to be. They're meant to be discussions. And, let's face it, we're not going to solve anything here on Twitch, but I just hope I can make you think a little bit. The next time someone says they were friend zoned, tell them, no. Tell them you were not friend zoned. The friend zone doesn't exist. You didn't get what you wanted from somebody. You had an unreasonable expectation of the other person. And the person wants to be your friend, and you're being a bad friend. That's what happened. And I think if everyone does that, some of this shit will go away. We got to hold people accountable for their shitty actions. Star says, I guess I can't understand where they're coming from since I was blessed with beauty and charm. Well, I mean, I've been told I'm a handsome guy, but if I just let my beard and hair go for a couple months, I look like Grizzly Adams threw up on a homeless guy, and, it works out pretty well. I can see both sides of it. But it just comes down to this idea that we're better than this. That's what it boils down to for me. I think as a society, we are better than this. And I just keep coming back to that. And I don't just mean like producing people that are capable of this. I mean not holding people accountable for doing these kinds of things. I think that this is a clear possibility in society today, and We need to hold people accountable for their shit. Stott says, it makes me think of a guy who joined the army but was very Christian in his upbringing. Who he would. Yeah, that kind of shit happened a lot in the military. Because in the military, you're taught about duty, honor, expectations, and there's a lot of pressures on you, a lot of stress. And I think a lot of folks just get to that point where they feel like, well, I'm doing all the right things in my life, or at least they think they are. Why am I not reaping the rewards of a good life? And I can understand that on the most basic level. But it comes back to entitlement. Always does, folks. You deserve to have a happy, healthy life. Everyone deserves to have love in their life. But you've got to put in the effort to be a person that is lovable. And I know that's a dangerous thing to say. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't deserve love on some level. But you're not entitled to it. There's a very, very fine line there. I think a lot of people cross that line too often, and people get hurt. So let's keep up the discussion. If you're watching this after the fact, leave me comments below, tweet at me. I have a feeling this one ain't over.